Welcome into another bonus episode here at Hockey Inside Out. Canadien Drouin, does he have a career after this contract's over with the Montreal Canadiens? Stu Count, you brought up an example many shows ago that he has that Alexander Daigle in him, the similar parallels here. Now, Daigle played 616 games, finished with 327 points. Now, if I were to prorate that right now for Drouin's current stats, he would actually finish, if he played 616, that is, of what Daigle did, he would finish with 357 for his career. So almost similar parallels of the points production from Drouin and Daigle's career that he had in the NHL.
Yeah, it's pretty wild comparison, really, how well that lines up. But I don't know if it's the same as with Drouin and with Daigle. I don't know if he hates hockey as much as Daigle did, and he was kind of pushed in by his parents. I think the biggest thing for Drouin is he could never live up to the lofty expectations put on his shoulders. And the injuries, man, the injuries. If he could stay healthy, maybe we'd be talking about him in a different light. But that's going to be the biggest impediment to him continuing his career. He has not been able to stay healthy for any stretch of games. And it seems like anytime he starts playing well, he immediately gets hurt. So if he can stay healthy, maybe he has another stretch after this in his career. But as it stands right now, it's hard to see it because we haven't seen him have a prolonged stretch of good play without getting hurt in 3-4 years?
Yeah, I can't imagine anybody acquiring him at the trade deadline. And I can't imagine anybody signing him to any kind of a guaranteed contract after this season. If he gets something, it might be like an Alex Galchenyuk situation where he gets a PTO to show up at a training camp somewhere. And you also wonder, how much, with everything Canadien Drouin has gone through with his personal issues and with all these injuries, does he still want to play hockey? Does he still want to play in the NHL? Would he maybe rather go to Europe? Easier schedule, less pressure, less of a spotlight, and still make some good money, get away from Montreal and with his wife and his kid and experience a different lifestyle. His best season with the Habs, 18 goals, 53 points. His career high in goals is 21 with Tampa. I looked last season in the NHL, there were 111 players who had more than 53 points, which is Drouin's career high. And here's a guy making $5 million a year. The similarity with Daigle, we're talking with Jonathan, and Daigle sort of played hockey as his dad wanted him to. When Jonathan was a kid, he loved golf and tennis were sort of his two favorite sports, and he played hockey because his dad really liked him to. I remember writing a story on him. He used to go to the outdoor rink, not even wear skates. He'd just go with his boots and pass the puck around with his friends. And then his dad told me, you have to learn how to skate. You don't have a choice. You're going to have to learn how to skate. He didn't really want it, but then he learned how to skate. But I feel like I like Canadien Drouin as a person from dealing with him. I really like him a lot. Things some fans might not know. Some of the games on the road we've been at this season where we've gone in the room after the game, there's no players there to be interviewed. And Drouin has volunteered to come out and do interviews. A guy that you would think would want to hide in the back. He's not having a great year. He's come out and done it more than once. But I wonder about him moving forward, all the injuries and everything else that he's gone through. And does he really want to still play in the NHL after this season? He probably does. But is there going to be an offer? As I said, I think at this point, the best he can sort of hope for is maybe to get a PTO offer from a team to go to training camp and see if he can do something there. But I really don't know if Canadien Drouin is going to be back in the NHL next season.
Yeah, and let's face it, the injuries have affected his ability to perform. But that being said, we've seen him even so-called healthy and really disappointed in his inability to get involved and, do those extra things that he should be doing in his situation where he's a UFA looking to find a way to get attracted to different teams, if you will, to maybe give him another year in his contract. But the determination and desire seemed to be such that wasn't really interested in making the difference and paying the price. And I think a lot of times we look at his overall play at the end of the game when he did play, and we're disappointed to see that he didn't look really involved and engaged and was just playing out the time. So I really sense that he's had enough, and I think would be a real long shot if anybody else in the league was going to say we'll take a chance on him, because I think they know his track record, and we've seen it for quite a few years. Unfortunately, hasn't worked out well for him in Montreal.
Yeah, another reason I feel bad for him, I remember before the start of the season, asking him if he had set any goals for this year, and he said just to stay healthy. And he hasn't been able to stay healthy. And when he has been healthy, he hasn't scored, but I mean, he's been working harder than we've seen Jonathan Drouin work in the past. He's been, he's had chances to score. He hasn't scored. He's always been more of a playmaker than a goal scorer. But it hasn't happened. It hasn't worked for him in Montreal. And I remember after the trade, the Canadiens did a video of him in old Montreal talking with fans and like, how many goals are you going to score in the past? Oh, 50. He's going to do this and the pressure and everything else. And I remember speaking with his agent, Alan Walsh, after he came here, and I said, "What's the best advice you've had for Jonathan coming into this big spotlight and everything else?" And he said, "Just have fun." I don't think it's been a lot of fun for Jonathan Drouin his time in Montreal. There's been a lot of negative media. There's been, the personal issues where he left the team there when they went to the Stanley Cup final and he missed that whole run. I don't think fun's a word to describe what it's been like for him here, which is why I wonder if moving forward, if he might, go on to play in Europe or somewhere where hockey might just be fun for him again and get away from the bright spotlight. And I mean, I could see him if he went over to play in Europe, just lighting it up in the bigger rink and less physical contact over there. And you make pretty good money playing over there also.
It's wild to think that it's been less than a decade since Jonathan Drouin went third overall, and we're here talking about possibly the end of his career. And it's not like he hasn't had fits and starts where he looked like he could be a player, right? It's unfortunate that we're at this point. I think that there have been times this season where he seemed like he was putting together, especially on the power play, but it just hasn't worked. And, maybe Europe is where it works, Stu. Maybe it's somewhere like Arizona where there's just no pressure and he can play some games.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, the Canadiens, he's not part of the Canadiens' plans moving forward, obviously, but I think it's also best for Jonathan to get out of Montreal. And you said going to play somewhere that's not a big hockey market would probably be really good for him at this point in his career. Maybe that would help him without that added pressure of not only being a $5 million player in Montreal, being a francophone player in Montreal, being the guy that you have up Sergachev for. There's just so many things that pile up on top of Jonathan. And I wish Jonathan all the best, whatever happens to him in the future. As I said, he's a good guy to deal with. He's and his teammates like him. So hopefully things work out for him wherever he ends up in the future.
Yeah, and some players, like you said, can handle the Montreal scene. French Canadian guys playing in Montreal, it's not easy for them. And I obviously wish Jonathan, because he has dealt with some issues, and we've heard about it. And I hope that his health and well-being is good, and whatever he gets involved in the future, good luck to him. But like I said, I don't see him continuing to play with the mindset and what we've seen today.
Well, Stéphane Richer, Rick, a guy last 50 goal scorer for the Canadiens, and then the pressure here in Montreal got to him too. And he went somewhere else and played really well after that with New Jersey. And so that might be, maybe Jonathan Drouin gets a PTO somewhere and he goes there and he becomes the player that people thought he would be when he was the number 3 overall pick in the NHL. But at this point in his career, that seems unlikely. If a team could get Jonathan Drouin and have him score 15 to 20 goals, that would be probably really good. But it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Two quick points here. I remember I had asked Claude Julien back in November 2018. Drouin had a 2-week stretch where he played really well. And I asked Claude, I said, "Coach, is this the best hockey you've ever seen Joe play?" He goes, "Without a question." And he thought this would carry over for him for the rest of the year. And he was okay that year. But you go back to that collision that he had in Washington with Ovechkin. It hasn't been the same since then for him. And you wonder if that was maybe the beginning of the end as a Montreal Canadian. And now we're at the point where he might be playing whether in Europe or somewhere else in the NHL come this fall. Well, that'll do it for this episode of Hockey Inside Out. Don't forget to submit your questions and comments. I look forward to conversing about that in a future episode. And check out the YouTube page for Hockey Inside Out. And sign up for the newsletter at MontrealGazette.com/newsletters. And full episode and bonus content, head on by Hockey Inside Out. On behalf of Andrew, Rick, and Stu, wish you a great week. We'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.